Hey everyone, what's going on? It's Blue Milk here again with another daily upload. We are going to talk about here, as you can see over there on the side, 5 rules to follow in each game. And I really wanted to do this because I know a lot of people get overwhelmed with Clash Royale, whether they're a new player or someone who's been playing the game for a while. There's just so many things to keep in mind while you're playing the game, so many little tips and tricks, and I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably watched a lot of other, 5, 10 tips to help you get better at the game, just anything really. But what I'm going to try to do here is cover a wider perspective on how you look at the game to keep it so all these tips and tricks will just file under one of these rules, and this will keep your head a little more clear for each game that you play. And even if you're a seasoned player, even if you're someone like me who's been playing the game for a long time, I still use these to help keep myself focused and keep myself on track for everything I do. So alright, so let's hop right into game here for our first rule, which is going to be utilize range for counter pushing. Now what I mean by this, and actually Princess is a fantastic example, is that troops with a lot of range, Musketeer, Princess probably being the prime options here, they have a lot of range to cover both lanes pretty much, and you should be able to use these guys to apply pressure into both lanes while still covering the lane you want to go for. This meaning that most of my pushes here are going to be on the right side. Most of my pressure is going to be on the right side. But since I have the Princess on the left, I'm still getting clear over here on the right. But the Princess is offering pressure on the left. So I'm pressuring both lanes, covering both lanes, and keeping up all my pushes on the right side. And so you can see here, with all that, with the elixir that he spent on the right-hand side, I'm able to make a bigger push with the minion horde and the goblin barrel and the princess on the right, and there's nothing you can do. I get the chip damage with the goblin barrel there. So decent idea to keep in mind during each one of your games. There's ranged troops in the game for a reason, and make sure you abuse them. That's the first rule. The next tip I have for you guys is to utilize lifetime value to get a little more out of them. And what I mean by that is to go and place your defensive structures, any defensive buildings you have, and when someone uses something to try to counter them, i.e. this battle ram here, use something with a little more pressure that they're forced to counter. So they are obligated to counter my goblin gang there, and so now my furnace is going to get a tiny little bit more value out of that just by being there. I used it to counter the battle ram at first, and then I got a tiny bit of value countering those 3 musketeers there by just putting out more pressure with the goblin gang. Now something I usually like to do this more with, a better combo in my opinion, is to use something like this here, and then it's better used with a troop that they absolutely have to respond to. Some being Princess here. They have to send either a card or a spell to counter this princess, and if it's a card or if it's a troop, then that troop will be countered by my furnace here. You can see they use the skeletons, and skeletons would be countered anyways, so skeletons are actually a pretty solid counter to this rule. But usually what I see is either archers, goblins, anything to kind of take care of that princess, and then those troops walk up and they won't touch the tower because either your inferno tower, your cannon, your furnace, all that stuff was already there, and it will remain untouched. So for this third rule that I have here, I was a little reluctant to kind of add it on here because I've been playing Clash Royale for a while, and I know that I know all about cycle. It's a big part of the game. I understand it pretty well, but this video I want to cover all levels of play, and surprisingly, even at the trophy count that I play, around 4,400 to 4,900, I still see people that don't respect or understand cycle, and it shows really well in their gameplay. So to kind of give you the rundown on what this is all about, what you want to do is you want to run a deck with a lot of cheap cards so you can get to one card, cycle through your deck nice and quick, and get to the card that you're working on, which is, in this case, we're going to be running Cycle Hog. And so now, all I have is all these cheap little cards that I throw out, Log, Ice Spirit, Rage. Just clear all this stuff out, and then looky here, I just have the Hog back in my hand. And so this deck is really, really strong because if you have someone that only has one option to defend against your hog, usually people will have like one designated card. They'll have like a cannon, or they'll have a defensive structure. And so now here, this guy doesn't really have anything, but since he doesn't have a hog defense in the first place, I just completely tear this dude's deck apart. Even if he did have a cannon or an Inferno Tower or something to deal with the hog, he would still just be stuck and caught up in my cycle because I'm constantly throwing more hogs than he can defend against. And this kind of goes into deck design as well. If you're designing a deck and you don't have two options to defend against hog, two options to defend against giant graveyard, something, you have to have every win condition and you have to have two options for it, because you have to remember you have to utilize cycle. This goes on both ends of the game. Okay, so this next rule is a little bit more difficult to teach. It kind of just takes experience, so this kind of requires you to just play the game, review your games, and see what people are doing, and review the meta, which I do roundups for the meta every Sunday with the tournaments that I host. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you follow my Twitch page. You'll be able to get into those tournaments, and I cover the top decks in each tournament to get an idea of what the meta is currently. And so you can see here, the first card we see is a bowler. So generally the two main decks that you see bowler in are bowler graveyard freeze or bowler graveyard poison, the graveyard combos. With the baby dragon, this is almost definitely a graveyard. I'm guessing this guy has poison because poison's a little more popular as of late. But as you can see, like I said, I saw the bowler and I had two options. Either the giant bowler combination deck or the giant the bowler graveyard combination, which is much more prevalent in the current meta. You could almost, any player that was very involved and very invested in the Clash Royale meta would say, this is a graveyard deck, and they would start playing accordingly. And earlier in the clip, I did no such thing because I was trying to tell you guys, hey, this is going to be a graveyard deck, and it was, and it absolutely stomped my tower. So just knowing what could be coming by seeing one card is an incredible skill to have, an incredible skill to train. And I see a lot of people who, you know, they're just like, oh my god, what is this crazy deck? Or, oh my god, he got the sneaky rocket on me. And really, you can anticipate those pocket rockets. You can anticipate those crazy card pushes, because a lot of the decks in Clash Royale follow the same archetype, and there's a lot of things that you can anticipate with each game. So make sure with whatever deck you play against, a couple other common ones are, if you see a Tombstone, it's almost definitely going to be some Lava Hound variant. If you see a pump, the most common pump decks are Golem decks and the Three Musketeer Battle Ram decks in the current meta here. Every meta will be different. As this video becomes outdated, different metas will pop up. So you just got to follow the scene, watch videos, and you can watch my videos. Like I said, every Sunday I do a meta roundup to show you guys, hey, this is what you got to keep an eye out for. These are the strong prevalent decks. And, well, Graveyard plus Bowler completely destroyed me. So, hopefully you guys can utilize this ability and up your game a little bit. Alright, so here we have our fifth and final rule, which is to utilize lane swaps. And I chose to use an X-Bow deck to exemplify this because I think it's the best bet when trying to go for counter pushes. When you're playing against big, right now I'm playing against a spammy deck, so I probably won't be able to show it too well, but I'm going to try anyways. I was actually going to cut this video out because this guy's not only running a Royal Giant deck, which you can't really exemplify this, but he's also running a very spammy Royal Giant deck with a lot of cycle, and it's hard to show how lane swaps work, because usually the way you want to play out lane swaps is they'll put a big push, they'll put a Lava Hound in the back, they'll put a Golem in the back, and what you'll try to do is you want to hurry up, put down a big push on the opposite lane, even if you've already got a little bit of damage here. You can see I got this tower actually down about 800 health, and I said, hey, I'm lane swapping, and it worked out for me. On the right side here, you can see I was able to take that tower, and he's going to try to rock me out, but that's not going to happen. A lot of people don't use this, and a lot of people don't abuse this either. They say, hey, I racked up 400 damage on this left tower, and I'm not lane swapping. And you can see that happened to me. But as soon as that guy dropped a Royal Giant and a Rocket on one lane, that's when it's time to lane swap. That's when it's time to say, okay, you messed up. I'm going to hard push this opposite lane. I'm going to lane swap. And you have to keep an eye on these opportunities. Remember, this is a 5 rules that you should keep in mind during all of your games video. All these things you should have in the back of your mind when you're playing Clash Royale. I'll go over them again for you. We have our 5 rules here, which are to utilize range for counter pushing. Long range troops like Princess and Musketeer you can use to put pressure in both lanes by using their range. Number 2, utilize the defense's lifetime, the lifetime of defenses, putting down an Inferno Tower to counter one troop, and then forcing your enemy to place another troop down to utilize more from the Inferno Tower, get more value from it. Other buildings can be used like this as well. Number 3, utilize cycle, whether it be building your deck to defend against it or building your deck to abuse it. Number 4, use the ability to identify decks. Make sure you're watching the scene. Make sure you're keeping an eye on what's meta, what's not meta, how the meta is changing, etc. And utilize lane swaps, as we just talked about here. If someone puts a big elixir push on one lane, you can always lane swap and punish them for that and counter their push with a much cheaper option. Keep all these things in mind when you're playing each game, just these 5 rules in the back of your head, and then just stay focused on the game. And it's actually been proving pretty successful. And even if some of these things come as like obvious to you, or these are second nature muscle memory to me, it just makes it easier for you. You only have to remember 4 rules or 3 rules, and your game will be that much easier, and you can focus on improvement. If any of these rules did not help you, and you're the best player in the world, and you just are a pro player watching my videos for tips, don't know why you're doing that, but I have another tip for you guys. Don't worry, I have a little bonus tip. Here on the shop, you can always see a bunch of troops here for sale, and these troops here start out at 2 gold, and rare troops or spells start out at 20 gold. Now, if your clan that you are in requests a lot of heals, which mine does, I'll buy 2 heals. And why will I do that? Because they're underneath the amount of gold that you get for donating them. For donating rares, you get 50 gold. So buying one for 20, that's a profit of 30 gold. Buying one for 40, that's a profit of 10 gold. You'll always want to buy cards in the shop, even if you don't use them, even if you don't think you'll need them, because when you donate them, you'll still make a profit off of them. Same thing for this knight here. My clan requests a lot of knights and a lot of heals, so I might as well stock up on those and get some extra gold from it. So thanks for watching. Like I said, I'm going to be doing daily uploads here on the Blue Milk YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching very much. If you want, I also stream every day at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can watch me there, and you can say, hey, Blue Milk, I had a question about one of your videos, or I had a question about your stream, anything. I am so interactive on my stream. I talk to you guys. I have chat open all the time. I just love streaming on Twitch. It's a lot of fun. So if you want to, catch me on twitch.tv/BlueMilkGG. And if you haven't already, go ahead and leave a comment below. What kind of tips do you keep in mind when you're playing the game? What do you find to be the most struggling thing? What do you always have to keep in mind while playing to remind yourself to do? Because I think the one that I usually forget is the lane swap one. That's the one that bothers me the most. That's the one I don't capitalize on the most. And keeping that in mind while I'm playing each game, like look for lane swap opportunities, just saying it over and over, and seeing that opportunity in the last game I just showed you guys and punishing the right lane, I was able to get a win. And so it's a very serious, very opportunistic rule you can keep in mind. So again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Appreciate you stopping by. Have a good one.